AMC has retested that 3.10 cent level, but we did see a bit of a rejection. Now, should we expect buyers to step back in here, retesting that point and breaking through that, continuing in an upwards motion, and then retesting that long-term resistance that we have had our eyes on the channel? Are sellers going to continue in a downward motion, delaying the process of retesting that long-term resistance? All right, guys, kicking things off on the weekly, the main target that we see here is this double bottom. We bottom at that 238. We bottom once again. We get a nice move up, a small retracement, nice move up, and now a retracement right back where we see that area. And once again, kind of a double bottom like formation, bottoming. And now price is kind of indecisive, either coming back to the downside of 283 or buyers stepping in here trying to trend back up. And our main resistance point on the channel currently is this resistance created around that $550 level. That's where we see a lot of chop between that $4 psychological level and that 5, but we do kind of peak out there a few times. Stemming from this longer term resistance as well as this newer longer term resistance, created it here, bounced once here, bounced twice here more recently, and now we are looking to break through that. And as long as that resistance is in play, it's not looking great for the buyers here. But since we just bounced recently, should we expect price trend back up there and get a retest, or is it going to be a while? Are sellers going to stem off from that last retest and rejection and bring price further down in a quicker manner? All right, guys, on the daily, what we can analyze here is that last retest, last couple of retests, right? We see a lot of volatility start to pick up with this stock, as AMC is one of those small cap stocks, not stranger to these big moves up and downwards. So we see a lot of volatility kind of pick up after this energy building phase between 260 and 283. We pop out from there, see a nice continuation and beautiful green wide bar hitting that $4 psychological level as well as that longer term resistance. And then we see a mirroring kind of red bar and a continuation to the downside within this narrow channel where we kind of break out once here. We try to break out once, try to break out twice, and then successfully the third time we get that breakout, continue upwards, smaller pullback, and continue to that long-term resistance. That's where you see that rejection once again. And then we see sellers really in that ultimate control for a lot of days in a row. Really bearish price action here, but then we find that bounce at 283, continuation up, retesting that 324. Sellers close in favor, though, bringing us back downwards. We try to retest that ceiling once and twice, and now we're back downwards in a bearish kind of, price action going on here. So not looking great in the short term, right? You want to see that break of that 3.10 level. And if we're trending backwards, this main resistance that we found here, very similar. That first time we created that stemmed a lot of seller pressure days in a row. Bears in that ultimate control, bulls really not found in the sequence. And we try to hold up at that support of $4. Cannot. We flush that. We come down for a while, find that energy building phase that we noted and get that nice leg up. But this stock is very, very beat up and it favors the sellers a lot of time, right? We see these big moves up, but we get sharper retracements to the downside. And for every big move up, there was a sharper and longer big move down before we got that big move up. Exactly like we saw here, right? A long, big move downwards. And although this is a nice volatile move, in the grand scheme of things, it's a smaller movement to the upside than what we got to the downside over there. So then we get back in this channel, hold a bit higher than last time. We hold that 283. We don't go back to the floor of 261. And we break that. We see some nice buyer momentum once again, really breaking a narrow kind of descending range, gapping up, retesting that resistance. But once again, guys, holds up, and that leads to a very similar, like we saw in the past, kind of seller controlled move to the downside. Really similar here. Same thing, buyers not in that control whatsoever. Sellers in that ultimate control. And then once again, we kind of double bottom at that 283. We find a nice bounce to the upside. We tried to continue breaking that 324, where we kind of got that big move up last time. Once we hit that level, we got a really nice continuation to the upside, but we can't break that level and sellers bring us all the way back down. Try to retest that, and then we get shot back down again. So in the short term, guys, you'd want to look for a possible bounce at the top of that gap up candle. That being right at the point we're at now, I'd say around that 292. Price closed at that 293. So next trading day, you want to see price kind of bounce here. If we can't get that bounce here, very, very likely that we come back down to the floor of 283. Looking for that shorter term double bounce. We did get a double bounce here, but just a shorter term one. And then retracing back up to that 310, try to break that. And then, meeting back up with this long-term resistance. So a lot of resistance points that we have to retest and break through. So at the moment, we stand bearish on AMC for the short term. Obviously, the long term is very, very beat up, so it is a bearish stock. But in this analysis, we're looking for short term kind of areas where we could break through and buyers could find their movement to the upside. As long as this long term resistance is in play and we stay under these certain resistance levels, Not looking good for the short term. You want to see that break of 310 and then that break of that long-term resistance before you can see some longer-term upside potential for the stock. Give you guys a little bit of perspective here on the weekly. We are just very, very beat up in more recent times. We see that price just got completely destroyed. And then we kind of found a little bit of life after we bounced here. Tried to get that move to around $11. Couldn't hold. Just been descending on the monthly. Just extremely beat up stock. So from the long-term perspective, we're not going to get momentum on AMC until, we start winning these shorter-term battles with the buyers. As we can see, this long-term resistance, as long as that's in play, we're going to continue to the downside. So look for a reclaim of that 310, possible bounce, next trading day off this top of the breakout candle. If that doesn't happen, look for the double bounce once again, and ultimately trending back upwards, retesting that long-term resistance, as if we could break there, we could be looking nice to the upside for a bit of time for AMC. And now on the hourly, we just see a better eye view. Gap up, try to break that 320, cannot. Try to find that ascending support again, this short-term ascending support. It does hold for a bit, trend back up to that level of 310, cannot hold, and we see just continuation to the downside. So definitely want to look for a bounce here off this breakout candle before that gap up. Can't get that. Looking for that 283. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know your price predictions in the comments below. And let me know if you want me to continue covering AMC. If you do, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, trade smart, guys. I will see you all in the next one.